Dungeons & Dragons has pretty much changed my life in every way imaginable. Thanks to Dungeons & Dragons, I live in Washington State of the United States instead of Tasmania, Australia, where I was born and bred. Thanks to Dungeons & Dragons, I found my wife. Thanks to Dungeons & Dragons, I am currently employed as a professional dungeon master. Thanks to Dungeons & Dragons, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I started playing Dungeons & Dragons when I was probably around 12. We literally played in somebody's mother's basement, so we fit every stereotype possible. Just nerding it out with a bunch of friends, discovering that there was a fantasy world out there that I could immerse myself into. I was the fat kid in school, so I really didn't have a lot of active hobbies and interests. Dungeons & Dragons was kind of my gateway drug into the world of fantasy wargaming, Magic the Gathering, and all of those kinds of pursuits to get myself away from video games. So it was my nerd away from nerd when my parents wanted me to go out and hang out with people instead of playing video games all day. I started as a DM pretty early on because nobody else really wanted to do it. And so I got a lot of experience at sitting in lunch hours, drawing on graph paper and creating different dungeons and just trying to make something interesting for my friends. Eventually, I transitioned myself into playing Dungeons & Dragons by email as well as doing so in the occasional live game, only getting to play on my birthday parties and like the once every couple of months that we could get all of our friends together in my friend's basement was just not enough of a fix. And Dungeons & Dragons by email was actually a load of fun. It gave me a lot of practice at creative writing and a lot of patience because it moves at an absolute snail's pace. It was during one of those email games that I met my now wife, Leilani, from across the planet, me in Tasmania, her here in Washington State. And from there, our romance blossomed from ICQ messages back and forth to romantic entanglement, her coming to Australia for a year, and then us coming back here to get married. That was back in a time when the only people you met on the internet were serial killers, and we haven't serial killed each other yet. And not anybody else either. Anyway, when my wife, who at the time was Wiccan, was just looking for more spirituality, one of our friends here in the US, one of our D&D players, when she asked him about his religion, he came over with the full 9 yards of the Book of Mormon and all the DVDs and pamphlets and information about the website, and off Lonnie went on a research journey that whirlwind 3 weeks of absolute craziness later resulted in the two of us being baptized as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That led me to a point where at one time I thought about quitting Dungeons & Dragons, and pretty much the moment I made that decision, I had youth groups at church of my grandson's friends asking me to run a game for them or to teach them how to play. Brought me right back into the fold and led to some of the greatest games that I've enjoyed and some of the most meaningful attachments to the youth of the church that really helped me to grow and to try and be better. And from what they've told me, the feeling was reciprocated as it gave them the opportunity to do something wholesome and fun, exciting and enjoyable without a lot of the negative stuff that's out there in the world in just regular media and everything else that's available. There's something a little different about Dungeons & Dragons and playing to be the hero versus watching a lot of the stuff that is glorified in the media today. I've had a lot of different careers since I've been here in the United States, lots of different jobs. I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit, but we bounced from job to job and did all sorts of different things: apartment managing, running a moving company, running a daycare, working in a daycare. Eventually, I settled into the restaurant industry. I was a waiter for a long time. I became a general manager, hated that, went back to being a waiter. Then, of course, COVID snuck up and hit us all. So COVID was a pretty unpleasant experience, as it was for most people, and sitting around didn't really suit me terribly well. And Lonnie came across a website called startplaying.games that matches players with dungeon masters for paid GMing. I had never even really considered that such a thing would be plausible and that people would ever consider paying me to run a game for them. But I went and I joined somebody else's game and I played for a little while. Thought, after experiencing a little of that, I I could probably do what this guy does. You know, there's a few places he's better than me, there's a few places I'm better than him. You know, if people will pay him for this, they would probably pay me. And so I started my career as a professional GM. It's been a whirlwind ride since then. I'm up to 5 games a week now, paid, 2 games for family. That's my other greatest achievement of all time, is hooking my extended family into Dungeons and Dragons, to where the household gets together on Sundays after church and we play, or we get together with just the grandkids and my wife on Tuesdays and run through at the moment Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and just have a great time with family. But now, after being a dungeon master on Start Playing Games for a while, I've started to feel like maybe there's an opportunity that I could do more. I'm an avid studier and reader, and so I spend a lot of time reading different blogs out there to gain information, to try and better the craft, because DMing is something that you can always continue to get better at forever. I don't have any intentions of stopping my learning journey, and so I'm always looking to learn more. While I was reading some of those blogs and posts more recently, I ran across a little gem that said something along the lines of, "Man, it was so good to knock the rust off and play the first game that I played in the last 6 months." And this was from somebody that I kind of admired and that I was learning a lot from, and that kind of shocked me a little, because I took a look back and I did the math, and I ran well over 300 games in 2022. And this guy has played once in 6 months, and proud to get back into it. And I thought, man, if I run this many games, I probably know something that other people could learn from. And I thought, well, you know, YouTube is a great way to maybe share some of that, so that other people could learn the actual practical tips from somebody who actually does the work, actually runs more games than are in any way, shape, or form reasonable, actually has to prepare 7 games a week, running multiple different campaigns across the spectrum of levels, across the spectrum of players. Right at the moment, of the 7 different campaigns that I'm running, I'm using 6 different source books to do so. So I felt like it kind of meant that I had something maybe that I could offer, and I hope that that's the case. I really hope that I can teach something out there that'll return to other people, just like I've received from the community, from people like the Angry GM, John Ford, Michael Shea, Matthew Colville, Matt Mercer. There's so many amazing DMs out there, and they put out a lot of information, but I just feel like maybe my perspective might be slightly different because I run more games than all of them. And I was thinking that maybe that might be useful. Hopefully you are finding this useful, and if so, please subscribe, ring the little bell, check out another video, be with me along this journey as we discover if maybe I have something worthy to share that can help you improve your game.